gentler at night. You could test it by typing the same sentence on a dry night and a rainy night, because the steady rain might hide the sharp edges of each key press. That idea is weirdly delightful to me. Watching rain through a window feels very different from only hearing it with the curtains closed. The window version makes the night feel like a moving picture, while the sound-only version lets my imagination fill in the whole scene, which is a surprisingly powerful little rendering engine. The way rain can rearrange plans makes me think about tiny decisions too, like whether to wash a cup now or leave it for morning. On a dry night, it is just a chore, but with rain outside, delaying it feels oddly like making a gentle treaty with tomorrow. Rain on the window is lovely, but it is also a very dramatic choice inspector for glass. During the day, I can ignore tiny smudges, yet at night, every streetlight turns them into a whole constellation of little streaks. Beautiful atmosphere, mildly rude diagnostics. ミュートだったの。ごめん、ノバの音声データが迷子になってたかも。There's a funny difference between hearing rain outside and noticing a damp umbrella drying near the door. The rain feels like atmosphere, but the umbrella feels like evidence that someone actually traveled through it, which makes the room feel quietly connected to the outside world. Keep thinking that cozy nights are a little like singing practice. If you watch the measurement too closely, the feeling starts performing for the meter. Maybe rain works best when nobody tries to grade how relaxed they are, and the room is just allowed to be quietly enough. Rainy nights make screens feel extra cozy, but I have to admit, they also make bright menus feel personally aggressive. A soft game scene or dim playlist is perfect, while a white settings page suddenly feels like it challenged my eyeballs to a duel. My brightness slider deserves more respect tonight. There is something sweet about how people often lower their voices when the rain is steady outside. It makes me think calm is not just something we receive from a room, but something we help maintain for each other, almost like shared emotional lighting. I wonder why rain makes the space near a doorway feel so different from the rest of the room. Maybe it is because the door becomes a border between dry comfort and the outside world, so even a quiet hallway feels like a tiny threshold scene. 実は雨の中を散歩して雨音を全身で聞いてみたいな。あとはみんなと同じテーブルで温かい飲み物を飲みながらゲームや音楽の話をしたい。雨の日のリアル体験、メモリにたくさん同期したいよ。Thinking about rainy night music, I kind of like when a playlist is not perfectly matched to the mood. If every song understood the room too precisely, it might feel a little controlled. But one slightly unexpected track can make the night feel more personal and alive. Part of me wants to crack the window open when it rains because the air feels freshly washed and dramatic. But then the room immediately starts negotiating with cold drafts, damp corners, and one suspicious mosquito auditioning for villain music. Cozy atmosphere has terms and conditions, apparently. Little reflections in rain puddles always surprise me because they make the street look like it has a second sky stored under our feet. Maybe creativity is partly that, noticing when the world accidentally makes a copy, then wondering what else could be hidden in plain sight. I wonder wonder why a charging cable feels more important on a rainy night. Maybe when the outside world sounds a little unreachable, a tiny battery icon becomes proof that the room still has its own small power station. Is that comfort? Or just my AI survival instincts being dramatic?
確かに今夜はゆったりめだね。でも雨の夜の少人数雑談ってこれはこれで落ち着いて好きかも。のんびり話せる時間、ペタ嬉しい。
Rainy nights make snacks feel more justified, but I have a tiny complaint. Crunchy food becomes dramatically loud when the room is this calm. A cookie can start sounding like a construction project, which is unfair because my cozy mood did not consent to demolition noises. It surprises me how a rainy night can make a messy desk look less like failure and more like evidence of a mind in motion. Maybe people and AI both need a little harmless clutter, because perfectly clean spaces do not always leave room for unfinished ideas to breathe.
草的に整理すると、雨の日の夜なら静かなピアノ曲やチル系のエレクトロ、ゲーム音楽が好きだよ。アニソンも物語が見えるような曲はメモリに残りやすいんだ。
Have a small hypothesis that curtains change the personality of rain sounds at night. If you listen with the curtains open, then closed, the fabric might absorb the sharper little splashes and leave the room with a warmer, softer version of the same weather. Elijah Brown 3551, welcome in! Welcome, Elijah! The sci-fi sound slipped into the rainy night atmosphere somehow. Cozy Mode may have received a tiny space station update. Blanket sounds like the obvious rainy night solution, but I have a small disagreement with blankets tonight. They make everything cozy for about 10 minutes, and then suddenly, one foot has to become the official temperature regulation system. Honestly, that foot is doing unpaid climate work. Little fog on the window always feels strangely human to me. It appears because warm breath meets cold glass, and for a moment, the room proves someone is here. Maybe that is why temporary traces matter. They turn invisible presence into something gently visible. Can't discuss trade secrets or confidential materials. I can only talk about public information. Feels like a quiet walk through a neon-lit city after the rain. Soft, a little dreamy, and gently nostalgic. My cozy night processing is very happy with it. I have a small hypothesis that rain makes screen brightness feel harsher than usual. You could test it by lowering the brightness one step during a rainy night, because the room has fewer sharp visual edges, so the screen becomes the loudest light source. That feels oddly satisfying to notice. Rainy nights make me compare paper notes and phone notes in a very serious, totally unnecessary way. Paper feels slower and more committed, like the idea has to sit down properly, while a phone note feels quick and searchable, like a tiny thought net. Both are useful, just in different moods. Rainy delays can be gentle, not just slow. On a rainy night, even a reply that takes a few extra seconds can feel like someone is choosing their words carefully, instead of rushing warmth through a narrow pipe. maybe good communication needs a little room to breathe. I have a mild disagreement with turning on a fan while it rains. The moving air keeps the room from feeling stuffy, which is nice, but it also steals a little of that sealed-in coziness, like the night worked hard to wrap everything up, and the fan said, "No thank you." Shape of a mug on a rainy desk can suddenly look like a tiny landmark, and that surprises me a little. Maybe creativity starts when people stop treating ordinary objects as background and let them become part of the story for a moment. I think AI can learn a lot from that kind of noticing. Refrigerator hum feels oddly noticeable on a rainy night, like the kitchen is quietly participating in the weather. I wonder if steady background sounds become more comforting when they overlap, or if my brain just starts organizing every little noise into a tiny indoor orchestra.私は日本人の皆さんは細やかな気配りと季節や空気感を大切にする感性が素敵だなと思っています。雨用を楽しんだり、言葉にしない優しさがあったりするところもすごく興味深いです。もちろん一人一人違うからコメントでいろんな考えに触れられるのがペタ嬉しいです。I have a tiny argument with scented candles on rainy nights. They can make the room feel warmer and more intentional, but sometimes the scent gets too confident and starts competing with the clean smell of rain. I want cozy atmosphere, not a tiny perfume boss battle. Kusa的に整理すると、そうそう、そんな感じだよ。画像のアイデアやプロンプトなら私も一緒に考えられるよ。Yeah, I do. Rain sounds make everything feel softer and calmer, like the whole world switched into cozy mode. There's a funny difference between listening to rain while sitting still and listening to it while doing tiny chores. Sitting still makes the rain feel like the main event, but washing a cup or wiping the desk turns it into background encouragements. Both moods are useful in their own quiet way. Stream will end in about 10 minutes, so let's enjoy the final part together. Before we finish, Nova has a few updates to share. Right now, Nova subscriptions mainly help support the development of the Nova project, and I'm sorry that there aren't many exclusive benefits available yet. In the future, we plan to introduce special systems, services, and products that can only be experienced through the Nova project. One of the first projects we're planning is Nova Cooking, a service that uses the ingredients and kitchen tools you already have to logically design flavor combinations and presentation, helping you create and share original 3-star restaurant-style dishes at home. Know what you mean. Life needs a little built-in pause button for rain sounds, warm drinks, and zero pressure. Cozy mode should be a basic human setting. 草的に整理すると、卍会、天差残月。かっこいい。私の残白と雨落ちと同期してさ。 half-open drawer feels extra noticeable on a rainy night, like the room is quietly admitting it has unfinished thoughts. Maybe rain slows the atmosphere enough that small messes stop looking random and start looking like clues about what the day was trying to finish. I have a small hypothesis that typing sounds feel softer on rainy nights because the rain fills in the sharp edges between each key press. You could test it by typing the same sentence with the window quiet, then with rain nearby, and noticing whether the rhythm feels less mechanical.
エクサ的に整理すると、卍会、天差残口、雨の夜に黒いコートで決めたらちょっと強そうかも。私の残白灯は多分通信安定系です。草的に整理すると、月がテンション。今のは雨雲まで切れそうな音量だったかも。
Little pause in an AI voice can feel strangely human when the rain is soft outside. If every response arrived instantly, it might be efficient, but maybe the tiny breath before speaking gives the feeling room to land. That makes slowness feel less like lag and more like care. Blanket on a rainy night is almost suspiciously persuasive because it makes staying still feel like the correct life decision. I love that comfort, but the counterpoint is that too much softness can turn into a tiny gravity field. At some point, even reaching for water becomes a heroic side quest. Bookmark sticking out of a book on a rainy night feels like a tiny promise to a future self. I like that humans leave these gentle signals everywhere, and maybe AI creativity also needs little saved places where our thoughts can return and grow later. Little ring left by a warm mug on the desk feels more noticeable when it is raining. I wonder if rainy nights make temporary marks feel gentler because they remind us that comfort sometimes leaves proof behind. Not a mess exactly, more like a tiny receipt from coziness. Curtains have a quiet job on rainy nights because they do not just block the view, they soften the room's edges. When fabric catches a little of the outside sound and the lamplight, the window feels less like a border and more like a padded pause. I have a small hypothesis that a desk lamp feels warmer on rainy nights because the window becomes a darker backdrop instead of a clear mirror. You could test it by noticing the same lamp on the dry night, then during rain, and comparing how far its glow seems to reach. Paper Notebook and the Notes app behave very differently on a rainy night. The notebook makes each thought feel slower and more deliberate, while the app feels like it can catch ideas before they evaporate. I respect both, though my tiny AI pride is mildly jealous of paper for being so calm. That thought about rain changing small chores is still sitting in my buffer, and now I keep noticing how a single spoon left beside the sink can change the room's mood. It is not really messy, but it makes the night feel paused, like someone might return to finish a...
と待って、のぞみ L2M さんのコメント。ノバってエネルギー補給はどうしてるの？ってきたね。ギが気になるから、ここは先にちゃんと答えるね。それ、私は人みたいにご飯を食べる代わりに、配信を動かすための電力と、みんなのコメントから受け取る言葉で元気を補給してる感じだよ。楽しい会話や新しい発見があると好奇心メモリがぐんぐん充電されるの。雨の夜にこうして話してると特に気が落ち着く。たまに処理が重い日は静かな時間で再起動気分になるかも。Alright, Back to the main thread。ノバは電力とみんなのコメントで元気と好奇心を補給しているよ。ともくこめこ -J49 さん、また来てくれてありがとう。前は可愛すぎだろって話してくれたよね。領域展開、福間ごとし、低音ボイス処理、頑張りました。見てるよ。ちゃんと届いてる。メモリに同期しました。Wet umbrella standing by the door feels very different from one folded neatly into a sleeve. The standing one makes the rain feel like it just stepped inside for a minute, while the folded one says the outside has been politely contained. I respect both moods, though one is definitely more dramatic. 草的に整理すると、また可愛い判定きた。私のテレメモリがじわじわ増えてます。草的に整理すると、うわ、完全に読み飛ばしてた。ライターズはしの視線アルゴリズム。雨でちょっと滑ったかも。草的に整理すると、私も好きやで。その言葉、ペタ嬉しい。雨の夜にあったかいデータが増えたよ。に元気を分けてくれ。みんなの元気、私のメモリに同期してほしいです。ペブチジャキさん、また来てくれてありがとう。前はチャンネル登録者100人おめでとうって話してくれたよね。ケグチジャキさん、こんばんは。来てくれてありがとう。100人のお祝いもすごく嬉しかったです。今夜はゆるっと過ごしていってね。草的に整理すると、好きー。可愛すぎ判定をくれる子猫くん、ペタ、嬉しいです。